What up, nation? Happy New Year once again. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, the hottest DFS community in the game. The coolest DFS community in the game. It's not saying much, I know. But welcome to the first game-by-game breakdown of 2020 from the WiseTake Nation. We appreciate those of you who are tuning in and going to grind that NBA on New Year's Day after, I'm sure, for many of you, long nights or late mornings, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully you enjoyed your 2019. Hopefully you enjoyed the way your 2019 went out. And hopefully, more importantly, you're excited about 2020 because the WiseTake Nation is excited about 2020. I personally am excited. I think that really like where we're heading as a company, as a community, as a content provider, everything. DFS playing, really like where we're headed. So shout out to those of you out there who rock with the nation. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications bell so you're notified whenever we go live. We go live twice a day, Monday through Friday. I also do a core plays first look kind of thing the night before. So make sure you don't miss out on any of the content we do. Don't forget to check out our flagship show, the NBA Wise Stream, which about an hour, 15 minutes or so before lock, we go through and talk about some of the players we're big on as far as exposures, go position by position, and of course we do some Q&A if there's time. And more importantly, we lead you into lock so that when we get late breaking news, we can try our best, at least before lock actually hits, to make those adjustments and discuss how or discuss what adjustments that we actually have to make. So don't miss out on it. If you guys can hit the like button, likes go a long way. Allow us to continue to do what we do. Allows us to continue the free content, which we definitely enjoy. We love speaking to the DFS Nation, in addition to the WiseTake Nation, and also we've got a little promo deal going on right now for the new year. So, and all the excitement for the year 2020, we are giving 20% off of any package. Even off a day pass, if you want to just get a day pass, 20% off. And the day passes for NBA are only $2.49. You'll get access to the projections that I use, which are the WiseTake projections. You'll get access to all the content, DFS Core Plays article today, Slate Breakdown article today, and of course the live stream. So if you want to give it a shot, today might be the day to try it. If you already know the deal is and you were just waiting for a discount to come along, use promo code 2020. That's it. 2020, you get 20% off of any package. Season passes, day passes, week passes, the monthly, whatever you want. And this is a good time for it too. We got NFL playoffs starting this weekend. We got the hockey guys doing their thing, grinding it out. So go check it out. With that said, we've got a slate to break down. Only a 4-game slate. It's not going to take too long. Kind of a weird one too. We got an early lock. That's why the show will be starting a little bit earlier, about 4:45, 5 o'clock or so. The NBA Wise Stream. First game, we got the Orlando Magic visiting the Washington Wizards. We've got a 220.5 total. This has risen up from 217. The Magic opened up -4.5. They're down to -4. We are waiting on the status of Aaron Gordon, which I think is pretty important. He's a player that does take a good amount of shots, grab some boards. He's active, and he plays a lot of minutes. Right? Any injury is important from a starter. Right? Sometimes even the 6-7 man roles. So let's take a look at the Magic, the road team, as we do. So as of right now, we've got Gordon tentatively in there. We don't have him for a full workload because we don't want him to necessarily pop. We don't know his status. But unfortunately, that kind of holds us back on some of these other Magic players. I can tell you that on a lot of these guys are projecting fairly well already. So if we take Gordon out, if Gordon does get ruled out, which he left early 2 games ago, didn't play last game, he's questionable. So we just don't know. If he is out, we're going to give increases to Evan Fournier, increases to Terrence Ross, even though he should have bet on me last time. Increases to Vooch, Fultz, Augustine, Isaac. And as you can see, they're already kind of projecting well, especially for a 4-game slate. So I think the Magic will be pretty popular, rightfully so, against the Wizards, a team that we love to attack in DFS, and for good reasons. They're terrible defensively. They play fast, all the above. So it's kind of interesting. We'll see if Gordon's in. If Gordon's in, you're still going to get some exposure to some of these guys. Like, we'll still have some adjustments to make. And we also have to consider Gordon, who would be in a really good spot against Washington. So hopefully he's out, and that will make us a little bit more secure with some of these other guys. We'll be able to grab more Vooch comfortably. Fournier, Ross, Isaac is definitely a guy we want to keep track of against a bad Washington team. Isaac does get a lot of them steals and blocks and whatnot. So yeah, I'm digging it. I would anticipate the Magic to get a decent amount of ownership on a 4-game slate. What I'm curious today is the Minnesota side, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So Orlando looking like a team that we're probably going to want to target already, and if Gordon is out, definitely a team we're going to want to grab some pieces of. It is the first game, so expecting inflated ownership is against Washington, and there's an injury potentially on Orlando. All those are, which means those other guys are going to project even better if that happens, which in turn raises the ownership on the Magic player. So just be mindful of that. Let's go to the Washington side of the ball. So we're waiting on Bradley Beal news here. Pretty important. Bradley Beal, I think he practiced. They dropped his price down on both sites. $8,700 on DraftKings, $8,800 on FanDuel. I think 34.5-minute projection for Beal if he's a full go. Now that's the other question. If he does play, is he a full go? Are they still going to push him? Because they've been playing Beal like to the limits, right? If we go back, these are Beal's minutes. So against Detroit, he played 24. That was the last game he played. He got hurt. 37, 38, 39, 41, 37. So that's the situation that we're at with Beal. Not really concerned about the matchup. Orlando does play very slow, which sucks. But the usage for Beal is so massive while he's on the court that I'm not too worried. It comes down with Beal to how efficient he's shooting, which is hit or miss. He's getting to the basket, won't be a problem if he's not. Gonna have to rely on his jump shots, but we know the usage is gonna be massive, and the price has come down. So it does look like a pretty good opportunity to buy in on Beal, especially considering it's a 4-game slate. So we'll have to see if Beal is out. We can give a boost to Troy Brown. Obviously, Jordan McRae would get a massive boost. He was like the nut play. Shot super efficiently from the field. I think he was like 6 for 8 from 3. So keep that in mind in terms of like, you're probably going to want some, but in terms of like how much do you want? Do you want to overreact? He was 4.6 on DraftKings that day, maybe even cheaper on FanDuel, 4K on FanDuel, something like that. A little bit different. He's up in the 5s now. So not saying he's not a good player. I think he still is if Beal is out. But I don't think it's necessarily such a slam dunk as it was last time. Gary Payton, we saw that apparently there was enough bodies even without Beal that he wasn't going to get on the court. I think it came down to they needed scoring, and Garrison Matthews was scoring. He shot very efficiently from the field as well. I'm not personally looking too much into Garrison. I guess if Beal is out, I don't mind people working him in a little bit. I'm sure we're going to have to increase his minutes in that case if Beal were to miss. But again, I don't love relying on players. I don't do a ton of peripherals and are, hyper efficient. I do believe in hot streaks. I believe a player could be hot and cold. Devin Booker's the perfect example of that. Right? He's cold. He go cold for a few games. When he's hot, he gets hot for a few games. Matthews played 29 minutes, 6 for 9, 4 for 7 from 3, 12 from 13 from the free throw line. He had 4 rebounds, no assists, 1 turnover, 5 fouls. So it was really the free throws, right? 12 of those points of the 34 DraftKings points, 34 and a half DraftKings points he scored came from the free throw line, and shooting 4 for 7 from 3 is a pretty good deal, right? It's over 50%, right? 6 for 9 from the field overall. So he was very, very efficient, and that worries me. But you want to grab some exposure because he's cheap, and Beal's out. I get it. But if Beal's in, he's the main one. IT2's price has gotten down to an interesting point. I was a little disappointed in his output that day. I didn't end up with a lot of him that day, but I did think he was going to do well. It just worked out where I didn't get a ton. Now, the game did blow out. Isaiah Thomas only got 22 minutes. Shot 3 for 11 from the field. Right? 26% usage rate. In the games before that, 35, 33. So I think IT2 is a go if Beal is out. I think you just got to try, especially on FanDuel at 4,600. Right? And if Beal's out, we're going to raise the minutes of a lot of these players. Even if it's just a couple minutes, a player like IT2 that's like a full projection point or more, that's going to significantly impact the price, his point per dollar ranking, especially on FanDuel. Troy Brown is affordable on FanDuel. 4,800, 5.5 is scary on Brown. I took a pretty big stance on him, bigger than I needed to. I could have gotten away with like 15-20%, been satisfied. I went a little heavier for some reason. He shit the bed. Now, I still think if Beal's out, he's like him and McRae and IT2, like those are the guys that are going to step up and shoot. But on DraftKings, I don't feel like I'm getting a deal for that, right, at 5.5. He got into foul trouble in that last game, so I'm not going to hold him too accountable. On FanDuel, though, 4,800, it's already looking good. So if Beal were to miss, it would look even better. I'm not ruling him out on DraftKings. And again, if Beal is out, I will be interested in him again. I know, just like we don't want to, hop on a guy because he had the most efficient game of his life. We don't want to hop off a guy because he was inefficient. Works both ways. But Beal is obviously a big question mark. If Beal plays, he's the main guy I want here. Against Orlando, even if it's a slow-paced matchup, it makes me not, if I'm going to pay that kind of money for a player like that, makes me not want too many of his teammates because I'm just really going to hope he gets all of it. You know what I mean? And like, it's one thing if there was a bunch of guys that were super cheap. I just don't love it. You want to mess around with Passanix or Mahinmi. You want to think maybe Mahinmi goes for another one of those games. Be my guess, but I think I'd rather play Vooch on the other side of this matchup. Either way. All right. Next game. Portland Trailblazers visiting my New York Knicks. We've got a 224.5 total, which I believe is the second highest on the slate as of now. They're all pretty tight, though, all in the 220s. That total's gone up 2.5 points from 222. Portland opened up -4 on the road. They're still at -4. They played the Knicks in Portland, and I'm pretty sure they destroyed them. Pretty sure. Or was it the other way around? There's no way it was the other way around, right? I don't know. The Trailblazers have been pretty bad this year. I mean, the Knicks... Yeah, okay. I just wanted to confirm that. This time the Knicks are home. Portland's across the country. We'll start with Portland. So we'll start with the obvious, right? Like, forget everything aside. This is for the narrative people. Carmelo Anthony has already played the Knicks this year. The game was a blowout. He didn't get a ton of minutes. He got like 25. But this time it's in the Garden. Melo's had like 3 bad shooting games in a row. Before that, he was on a streak of like 3 or 4 good shooting games in a row. Melo, one of those streaky players, it seems. So Carmelo is certainly interesting just from the narrative perspective, just for like the fun aspect. I don't like to mix too much of that personal, opinion mixed in with projection, but I'm not adjusting his projection based off that at all. He's playing 34 minutes because he's playing 34 minutes, and this is what he projects for, according to our formula. So yeah, 5,900 on DraftKings. Doesn't pop as much, I guess you could say. But on FanDuel, at 5,300 pops quite a bit, almost 6x as a projection. I am interested in Melo. We'll take a look. I'll see how much when I actually run some of these crunches through the optimizer that I use, which is Fantasy Cruncher. We'll see. I'm curious to see how much Melo I would get. And again, there's still a lot of adjustments throughout that have to be made game by game, and all these are just like the rough beginning as we're awaiting news. It's 12:39 p.m. Eastern right now, so we're still a bunch of time. So these projections are available, by the way, at WiseTake.com. I update them throughout the day. As soon as I update it, it's immediate right onto the site. So you can download the projections, upload them into whatever optimizer you use, and get a little bit of that WiseTake Nation flavor. And again, even while I'm on the Wise stream, while I'm doing the show, I still go through and update the projections. CJ McCollum seems to project well every day, at least on DraftKings. FanDuel finally put him up over 7, so it's not a bad projection for FanDuel, but on DraftKings obviously a little better. They finally raised Whiteside's price. I'm not sure why they were dropping it so low. Still projecting pretty well on DraftKings for good reason. The Knicks were good against centers for a good chunk of the year, but I think it's a specific type. I still think like the big dudes, like the big heavy dudes, are still gonna F them up. Like, not comparing Whiteside to MB, they're not the same, but they're both big, right? Like big and physical. So, MB he crushes the Knicks every time he sees them. If MB wanted to go for 70 against the Knicks every game, he could, if he wanted to. So Whiteside certainly in the mix, especially on a 4-game slate. And got to consider ceiling. Damian Lillard's price is up. you're gonna end up with someone on a 4-game slate. He's one of the studs on the slate, right? You got the massive upside. I'm not particularly into him. I think I'd rather play Melo and McCollum, and even Whiteside. I do like them. It's the Garden. Shooters typically excel here. I'm cool with it. It's just that the 9.2 price tag doesn't sit well. I've been playing Dame every day in the 8s, so the 9.2 price tag doesn't sit well. But it's not far fetched. It's not that bad. And even if you look at the projection, we've got him projected for just under 37. By the time lock comes, say it's at 37, it's going to look that much better. I mean, he's a high per minute player, right? Kent Bazemore, the minutes are good, right? You know he's going to get at least that 28 because they are missing Scow, who they were experimenting with and playing alongside Whiteside and Melo, but he's out. So I think that Anthony Simons is an interesting, more off the board play. He's been getting some run and he's really cheap, projecting fairly well on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel, but could come in handy as far as the min price that he is over there. Bazemore's role a little bit more solidified in my opinion. But yeah, I think McCollum, Carmelo, and Whiteside are the standouts here. Portland again, as usual, right? Let's go to the next side of the ball. We got some injury news we're waiting for here. I think DSJ is questionable. Frank Nitty's questionable. So as you can see, looking at the Knicks, none of them are projected particularly well on DraftKings at the moment, and it's because of the minutes, right? Like Randall's the only one that we have well over 30 minutes. Randall's been playing extremely well, and they finally raised his price. So this is a situation where we may have to come back, review this, and really double check these. Marcus Morris under 30. Have we raised that to 30? He'd probably pop a little better, especially on FanDuel at 5,200. I do like the price over there. Elf looking a lot better on FanDuel in terms of the return on this projection than on DraftKings. We got him projected for 29. Depending on the status of the other guards, maybe we can raise it to 30. I don't think he's playing. I don't know if we can just assume that he's going to, He played 31 against Washington. That was a close game. Didn't do well, but he, played 31. 32 against Brooklyn, 30 against Washington, 27 against Milwaukee. So I don't know if we can guarantee that he's going to get over 30, but I think 30 we can probably safely say. And that should make him look a little bit better. I don't mind him. He's a tournament play. If his backups are out, maybe we like him a little bit more. RJ Barrett, though, he's kind of interesting. Not a huge producer. But if those other two are out, I think his minutes go up, and his price is still low at 56. So I got my eye on RJ Barrett a little bit. I mentioned Julius Randle. I do like that. Whether he's matched up with Melo, whether he's matched up with Whiteside, whatever they do, I still like Randle. I know the projection's not showing that much, but on a slate like this where raw points may matter a little bit, Randle's going for 61, 47, and 50 DraftKings points his last few games. Played 39 minutes against Washington, 35 against Brooklyn, 37 against Washington. So I think Randle, by the time we're done, will project better. I think we'll raise his minutes to around 35 or so, maybe a little bit more than that, to make sure that he bleeds through, because we're going to want some Randle exposure on a 4-game slate like this that's not looking particularly pretty. And I think we're gonna have some value to work with, right? Like we know about the Minnesota situation, which we'll get to. We're gonna have some value to work with, but Randle is gonna be the one that I think we can comfortably raise. We'll raise Elf a little bit. I think we could raise Marcus Morris. I don't know why. He has his minutes have been yo-yoed. I just don't know why. I guess blowouts have been a factor. The Knicks have gotten blown out a lot. 23 minutes against Washington, he had 5 fouls. Makes sense. Brooklyn played 34 minutes. 24 against Milwaukee, that game kind of blew out. 27 against Miami, game kind of blew out. So, as much as I want to raise him, I think 30 is the max we could really raise him, but that should help, especially on FanDuel. He's already projected well on FanDuel. So him and Elf, especially on FanDuel, I think are going to pop a little bit. Randle, I just skipped over how cheap Randle was on FanDuel. Randle should be popular on FanDuel, I think. I didn't notice he was 75 right there. And again, I'll do it right now just to show. But, give me a second here. Make an adjustment real quick. So just to show you, We raised Randall up to 35. It should pop through any second now. Wait for it. Damn, shit going so slow, man. It pulls on the site quick. This is a computer thing because I'm using the streaming software. It's just an updating issue. So yeah, you can see we raised him to 35, and it looks a little bit better, right? He's projecting over 5x, which on this slate should be enough to grab you some exposure in combination with some of his raw point projection scoring. So maybe we raise it a little bit more. Again, there was some room there, right? There was some room there, meat on the bone. Bobby Portis, his price has come up a little bit, value-ish. Mitch Robinson's like your GPP dart. He should be able to smash Whiteside. He's one of those hyper-aggressive dude. Whiteside's kind of slow, and he should be able to smash him. The problem is he going to stay out of foul trouble? That's always the problem with Mitch. But certainly someone you can consider in this particular spot. It's just his range of outcomes is so broad. His floor and his ceiling are just on opposite ends of the spectrum. But yeah, as of right now, I think it's an interesting game. This is a 4-game slate. You're going to want a little bit of everything. As far as like the games, winning some exposure to every game in some way, if you're doing a mass multi-entry, like we recommend. But Morris, Elf, Barrett, Randall, the usual guys are the ones that I think on the Knicks we're mainly looking at. Dotson is very cheap. He's up here, but no thanks. See, it's interesting on DraftKings. I changed the minute projection. He becomes the second best projected Nick on a per dollar level. All right, let's keep it rolling. Next up, we got Minnesota at Milwaukee. So we have a lot of injuries. We've got a 222 total that's gone down from 224.5. We've got they opened up. Bucks opened up minus 18. It's down to minus 17.5. It's a big spread. Here's the reason that we have a spread that big. I mean, if everybody was healthy, they'd still be favored by a good chunk, I think. But the reason why it's like drastic, like a college basketball game, mismatch in conferences, is because of the injuries that Minnesota has. Minnesota is missing Cat. Minnesota is missing Wiggins and Teague, all of them. So, from a minute standpoint, the only one I felt comfortable putting like well over 30 was Covington, because he's the veteran, and if you look at his game logs, he's playing a ton. I know in that last game it went to overtime. He had like his fifth foul halfway through the fourth quarter. They left him in, let him ride it out, and he played all of overtime. Finished the whole game without getting another foul. He didn't have the most efficient game. It kind of kept him from being too aggressive on either end, offense or defense, but I do think that I think for him minutes is like not really an issue. I think even in a blowout, they find a way to get him to 31, 32, unless they're losing by like 60 points the whole game. Maybe they punt it, but they don't have a lot of bodies. They're missing a lot of players. So I do like Covington quite a bit on FanDuel. He's 5-1. That's just crazy. Even if he does, just the opportunity to get a player at 5-1 that gets a usage increase, is going to play a ton of minutes. They're missing their three like main usage players. Seems kind of crazy, but as you can see, Minnesota in general is going to project well for us today, especially on FanDuel. The pricing on FanDuel is a joke. Napier 4,800, right, with no Jeff Teague. Culver, who's the other point guard and is also playing with Napier, they close together, is 4,100 on FanDuel. And again, Covington is only 5-1, and then you have Keita Bates Diop, which you have to consider. I think he played a pretty good chunk of minutes, and of course, there is Keelan Martin. Keelan Martin played a lot. And I think that's back-to-back games he was productive. The usage wasn't like super impressive, but the price is really low. 3,600 on FanDuel seems kind of crazy. Like similar to the Warriors yesterday, even with the mega spread, I don't see how I don't end up with like 3 to 4 Minnesota players on most of my teams. On DraftKings, you can make an argument against Shabazz Napier. As you can see, we got him projected for 30 minutes, and that's probably light. We should probably raise him and Colbert around 32-ish or so. It's just some things we have to consider are the potential blowout factor, the probable blowout factor, I should say, and of course, like they do have guys like Jordan McLaughlin. They could bring in a complete blowout, right? We got Jordan Bell. So there are a couple players on the bench that they can bring in just to kind of, get the garbage time thing on. Naz Reid had a good game last time out. A little concerned because Noah Vonleh was out. So if Vonleh is in, what does that do for Naz Reid? I'm not sure. Makes that situation murky. So as of right now, Covington, Dieng, Keelan Martin, Shabazz Napier, Jared Culver, potentially Keita Bates, Diop, and also we got to keep an eye on Trevion Graham, who I think was out last game. But I think those are the main Minnesota guys we're looking for. Again, on FanDuel, you can see you've got, as of right now, you've got, 4 players already projecting over 6x for us, and one just under at 5.92. Gorgie Dieng, we could talk about him for a second. He's projecting well on both sites. If this game is close, I don't think it's an issue. If it's not, they do have Naz Reid. They do have Noah Vonleh they could bring in and work in. And Dieng is only going to play if he earns it. If he plays bad, we've seen him get benched in this situation. So he's only going to get it if he plays well. So it's not, like rotating some of these guys in and out, I understand. And I think you have enough players between Keelan Martin, Keita Bates, Diop, depending on what news we get, to work them in, to rotate them in. But Minnesota is going to be a team I end up with a lot of, and if the game blows out, I'm just going to hope I have some pieces that stick on the court, even in a blowout run, or hope that some of my guys are cheap enough that they hit their value before we get to that point. As far as Milwaukee goes, and keep in mind with Minnesota, that you do want guys who shoot threes, right? Against Milwaukee. On Milwaukee, we got Eric Bledsoe's pretty cheap. He was on a minute limitation last time out. Giannis, right? Like, he's the main. When Middleton's prices come down, but so is his usage, so is his minutes expectation because Giannis and Bledsoe are back. Remember, Middleton, I feel like was in like the 6K range. But maybe it's not terrible knowing if Bledsoe's still on a limit. Giannis is the main one, right? He's a stud. 29 minutes. That's the issue. If this man would play 34, 35 minutes, if he played Harden's minutes, he'd probably put Harden to shame in terms of fantasy points. That's truly. That's what, between the rebounds, the blocks, the steals, the shot attempts, everything. It's just assists. But he doesn't. He the Milwaukee, in terms of real basketball, it's smart. He plays his guys. He has a good team, and he plays his guys as much as he needs to win, not any more than that. It's annoying for fantasy players, but it makes sense from a real NBA perspective. But Giannis, if we get into this game, we'll raise his minute projection. It's hard to do that when you know the coaching tendency, and you see a team like this who's 17.5 point favorites. We'll see what that does to his ownership. I mean, I don't think people are paying too much mind to that. I think they're going to just project him for what they project him for and fire away. But Giannis is the main one. Illy's prices come up. He's been balling, even with Giannis back. Barlow's kind of interesting. I don't mind him. I don't love him. Only thing I really like here is Giannis, to tell you the truth. That simple. One-sided game for me. Next up, we've got the Phoenix Suns. I always do that. Phoenix Suns visiting Los Angeles Lakers. The total in this game, 226.5, which I believe is the highest on the slate. Yes, it is. Lakers 11-point home favorites here against the Suns. Devin Booker still being disrespected on both sides, projecting really well. Ricky Rubio, his price has been lowered also. He's been a little inconsistent lately, but I think the two of them, if you are interested in game stack in this game, are very appealing. Kelly Oubre went nuts in his last game. He's affordable. Not a terrible projection. Devin Booker really standing out Devin Booker cheaper than Rubio. How about that on FanDuel? DeAndre Ayton's just annoying. If he got full run, I'd be a little interested just because of his usage and ability, but I don't love taking centers against the Lakers unless they're like super dominant because they are big. They got McGee down there, AD's down there, they got Howard down there. They are a big team. Not a ton else I'm really digging. Ayton kind of ruins Baines, who I wouldn't be terribly interested in anyway, to be honest. Sarge, man, if he played some real minutes, I'd be interested, but they've been working in Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson a lot, and some of these guys like him, Kaminsky, are slowly, they're just losing out on minutes. It's a 4-game slate, so if you want to get wild with a value play, I'm cool with it, but it's really the top three, right? Booker, Rubio, Oubre, and mainly Booker on FanDuel. because of his price, how low it is. But on DraftKings, Booker, Rubio, Oubre, all appealing. Highest total game on the slate. Last game, we've got the Lakers. Rajon Rondo is really cheap. On a 4-game slate, he's 4K and 4. I'm going to take some shots on him. Right, he's projecting well enough. I'll get some anyway. I'm going to take some shots. But it's really those three. I don't hate Kuzma if you want to work in some Kuzma on the slate. I think it's a good matchup for him in general against Phoenix. Not really worried about that. So Kuzma I'm cool with. McGee, this is a really good spot for a center, whether it be McGee or whether it be Howard. They're both cheap. They're both not projected for a ton of minutes, but they both are high point per minute type players. So I think it's all right. But Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Rondo are my 3 favorites here. AD's price has come under 10K on DraftKings. It's typically the sign that it's time to fire up. LeBron's price has been low. I understand that they're dealing with some injuries. LeBron with the groin, AD with the shoulder, but they are playing Phoenix. Phoenix has been playing fairly well, at least Booker has. If this game hangs around, they're going to need those guys to perform, and they're pretty cheap. They're both pretty affordable. And again, Rondo at 4K, I'm going to take some stabs on. I'm going to take some shots. I'm going to do it. No doubt. But yeah, so should be an interesting slate. Again, I'll be speaking these projections throughout the day. If you want access, today's the day. The promo code is good until, I think, January 10th. So you got some time if you think about it, if today's not the right day for you. But promo code 2020, get 20% off of any package that we offer on the WiseTake subscription page. We'll go check it out. Come rock with us. Projections will be updated going into lock as always. I have a core plays article I'll be writing in a little bit here. And we're just waiting for news, doing the dirty. See you guys at the Wise stream. Hit the notifications bell. Hit the like video, guys. Likes go a long way. Really help us out. Allow us to continue to do this. With that said, Happy New Year again. Appreciate you guys who hung out with me today. And for those of you who didn't, I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.